Good morning and welcome to a rather miserable day in London. I'm here today because I would like to try my hand at a bit of infrared photography on architecture. While I'm up here, I'm also going to pop to Waterloo Station to go and see the Landscape Photographer of the Year exhibition and see a couple of my shots as well as those of my peers.
Planning a day out in London, it's no mean feat from the south coast, but we managed to get up there for an 8 AM start, all excited for what lay ahead. I was accompanied by my long-suffering beloved and photo buddy Ben, who by the way is pretty much a genius at this kind of photography. I was armed with one camera, my converted 6D to infrared, and a 24-105 lens. My aim was to see what lessons I could learn and transfer to landscape whilst doing infrared fine art photography, looking up.
Now, this is definitely out of my comfort zone, but I do love the effect that infrared has on buildings, whether it's glass or masonry, and that's really what I want to explore today.
And also, by looking up, quite often you'll see little pockets of juxtaposition, which are quite fascinating. It's whether or not I can do it justice through my camera. As with landscapes, positioning's really important, even more so with high contrast architectural structures such as this. Now the spacing here between old and new is inconsistent, and it annoys me as I didn't notice it in location. I focused instead on my first lesson, choose your verticals. In this case it was quite obvious, but it's going to be a common theme because if you get it wrong, it's really distracting. Now sometimes it may not be immediately obvious, so you have to kind of get a best fit approach. Now I'm very aware that the sky in these photos doesn't exactly fit with a classic fine art approach, but I'm not even going to try sky replacement for this video. That is for another day. So it's back to tube hopping to explore another area.
We have just found some of the coolest building combinations, and it's student accommodation. Let me swing you around to show you what we're talking about. This looks really cool in infrared, particularly when juxtaposed with the building on the left with some leading lines into it. Nice.
I shot this at a number of angles, but this chosen vertical stopped distraction and was the most visually comfortable. I initially liked this version with the diagonals going into the corner, but it just didn't sit as well. Translating this lesson into landscapes, sometimes you might have to make a decision whether to use your camera or tripod's leveler or make a visual selection of a vertical. One comment by a fellow tog about how they liked the shot but couldn't live with the wonk has made me question whether I chose the right vertical to go from, and now I can't unsee it.
Now, even though the light is quite flat today, and normally with infrared I want skies that pop, it's actually quite useful for the architecture aspect. What I'm able to get therefore is the ability to focus on what I want to and accentuate what I want to, as opposed to where the light just happens to hit and burn everything out.
Cue our next unusual building.
So one of the features of today is going to be shape and form. I'm looking for curves, I'm looking for jaggedy points, anything that looks interesting and unusual. And hopefully the infrared treatment will work well.
Now obviously having a converted infrared camera I can handhold, which means I can tweak my compositions without too much faff. It also means that when I'm pounding the streets across London, I don't have a heavy burden on my back. So to lesson 2, directing the eye with light. Achieved here through some good selections and dodging and burning. Now in my landscape work I am a little bit fearful of overdoing this. More recently I've been a bit more punchy, and actually it's worked. Perhaps I just need to have more courage when it comes to this. So utilising lesson 2 properly means that actually my shots could be better. Who knew? One
of the other things I want to do whilst I'm up here is to visit Waterloo Station, where they are in the last few weeks of the exhibition for the Landscape Photographer of the Year. And I know it's a little bit egotistical, but I wouldn't mind just having a look at my photos. The only time they will be exhibited, I suspect. And also, whilst I'm there, I need to get a few shots for other photographers who have not been able to come up and see their shots for themselves. Well, it's not the optimal conditions that you would normally look for. Those punchy blue skies that go black versus foliage that goes white. It's really quite a different way of utilising infrared. Those curly buildings over there are where I'm going to go and stand underneath and hopefully shoot upwards. It's really when you get to look up from down here that things start getting quite interesting.
I know I do need a darker sky. However, lots of selections went into drawing the eye towards the tops of these buildings. Editing these was far more complex than I thought it was going to be. Oh heck, why do I feel so nervous? At this time of the day, it's actually quite quiet. But crikey, give it half an hour and it went bonkers. Get the book? Get the book. Right, this is the first one of mine, and it's in the changes in the landscape category. I confess I will always look at other people's work and think, oh, that's much better than mine. This is the second shot. It was highly commended in the coastal category. I like this a lot more. And bonus, I'm a youth. Who knew? I can hear my mother saying, why can't you take a nice picture, Louise? I know, why can't I? Right, back to it. Time for a bit of a meander before we get to our next serious place. This is definitely not serious. Oh, breakfast was clearly good.
These are amazing, aren't they? I'll share my footage with you if you can share this.
Stand by.
We're not
Knackered faces. He's lost the will to live. Talking to you down there for a very specific reason. We're going to hopefully try and get the wiggliness of this building here. It's bringing back memories because I used to work in the city, literally about 50 metres that way. It's all very different now.
Lesson number 3 from today that I only realised when I got home and started editing was that simple can be really special. Even when presented with a classic dynamic scene where all the elements appear to align, honing in on one element that's fascinating can give you a really different perspective, give you that unique shot that perhaps others haven't thought of.
I'm shooting today on a converted infrared camera, and what that means is that I don't need a tripod. If I had a screw-in filter, I need a tripod because it turns it into a long exposure. Also, if I have one of the newer cameras, often I will find that the screw-in filter doesn't actually work because it double filters. So what I mean by that is if I screw in a filter on the front of a camera lens, it allows the infrared light through. However, a lot of modern cameras have an infrared filter which prevents it from coming through. So sometimes you can end up with a pretty black screen. If you have a modern camera, just check before you buy one, eh?
I think I took the simple is special to the extreme with this next shot. Not in love with it. A bit too simple.
Yeah, the Shard's definitely a building that you need a little bit of distance to be able to appreciate it from. We're approaching the area called More London now. I think you'll be familiar with some of these views. Perhaps not in infrared though.
After 10.5 hours, I was fading fast. One more chance to look up before getting on a tube.
Oh, that does hurt your back after a while.
Yes, I've reached that age. But by God, what a day. Oops, I think I'd lost it by this point. Another spacing issue just like that first shot. I'm hoping that you can see that infrared doesn't have to be saved for a sunny day. You can take it out and do something different. And with that in mind, I'd love to know if any of my 3 favourites from today have caught your eye too.
Well, what a long day it has been, but I think it's been worth it. Just to experiment with textures and shapes and loveliness like that. Thank you for joining me today. Wherever I am next time, I look forward to taking you with me, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.
If you're at all interested in how to process infrared photography, then have a look at this. If not, try this.